If something feels off and you don't know what it is, you just don't feel right, this video is for you. So, today I want to talk about signs that it may be time for some changes in your life. Signals, things that you may have experienced, and you just don't think more into it, but it may be signs that it's time for you to start making some changes in your life and career. So I want to jump right into it. I want to start with the biggest sign, and that would be burnout, um, and what that looks like. So it could be you're just always exhausted, like mentally, you're just drained all the time, which can creep into being physically exhausted as well. You're just tired. And no matter how much rest you get, even if you take a little trip or whatever, you're just tired all the time. You're probably dealing with burnout. Other things could be your mood changes, like you have negative changes in your mood. Um like you're always irritable, maybe you become like super pessimistic about things all of a sudden. That could be another indicator that you might be dealing with burnout. Something else could be like changes in your sleeping pattern. Like now, maybe you're just sleeping so much more because you're just always exhausted, or it could be the opposite. Maybe you are experiencing like bouts of insomnia, um, you know. So it could be, subtle signs like that, or not so subtle signs, I should say, but things like that that you might just be thinking it's just like, a phase, or, you might not be thinking more into it, but burnout is real, okay? And we only, I think it affects us because like we're doing things that we don't really want to do, or we're doing things because we feel like we have to do them. And when I say that, I mean like as far as like work and just general life responsibilities, right? So it's tough, but that's one of the biggest signs that it may be time for you to make some changes in your lifestyle. So that's burnout, and I made a list so that I won't forget. The next thing, oh, and this was another one that I forgot. Like just feeling overwhelmed with like the most like everyday decisions are just overwhelming, you know. Figuring out what you're gonna eat for dinner, like you may have to make important phone calls, or you might just have a whole bunch of things to do, and you're just like, and, and instead of, just trying to tackle them, you might not end up doing any of them because you just get overwhelmed with the feeling, or you might just get through, one or two things and just kind of feel like, so that's also another indicator. Um, Next, another sign that it may be a time for you to make changes um, in your life is, this is a really good one, I think. Constantly daydreaming about a different life, or even just questioning your life choices all the time. Um, well, if you like see things, especially on like social media or even movies or whatever, just in general, like real life, you're just constantly thinking about like, you know the life that you dream of, literally the life that you dream of, no matter how far-fetched it may seem. And you might even go so far as to like start researching, like, dang, I really wish I would have, learned how to do this, or I really wish I would have pursued this different path, or what if I would have moved to California and became, an actress, or, you know, a dancer, a backup dancer, or something like that. You're constantly just daydreaming of a life that seems more appealing, no matter what it is. And you may go so far as to like actually like start researching, like doing all your Googles and figuring out, well, how do I become, how do you become a voiceover actress or actor or, or, just like random things like, dang, I really wish I've lived in a cold, state, and I really wish I could just live by the beach and, things like that. And you just constantly looking up things and trying to figure out if it is possible, for you to have that kind of lifestyle. And whether it seems possible or not, you ultimately end up saying, well, maybe one day it'll be like that, or not right now, I got too much going on, I gotta focus on this, I gotta focus on that. So that might be a sign, that it's time for you to make some changes. You're just constantly thinking about a different life for yourself, or you're just questioning your life choices that you've made to date, just like you know just wondering, like, did you make the right choices? Could things be better? Is this as good as it gets? So that might be another sign that it is time to make some changes. Another big one, which kind of it can tie back into burnout, which is nothing really excites you anymore. Like, in general, like you're just kind of humdrum, like going through the day. You feel very indifferent about things. Like, even if you accomplish like some major milestones in your life, whether you know what I mean, got a promotion at work, or you passed an important exam for like a certification, or anything, you graduated school, you got your degree, anything, but you don't feel like you're just like, yeah, you okay, I did it, all right, what's next? Like, you're not excited about it. Like, it's really hard for you to kind of just process and you know what I mean, and really enjoy and celebrate yourself. And again, like I said, that can kind of tie back into just being burnout. You know what I mean? Being experiencing burnout, like you're just kind of going through life just very indifferent about a lot of different things. Like, you don't really like maybe some of your hobbies that you used to really look forward to, and like, or just in general, not even necessarily hobbies, but like, say your friends invite you out to go to a concert or dinner or whatever, anything like that. You're just not excited about it. Like, you're just like, okay, you know what I mean? You're not necessarily sad or anything, but you're just like super indifferent. So it might be a sign or indication that, you might need to start considering that, you need to start considering that there may be time for a change in, your lifestyle. Another big one, again, this kind of could tie back into burnout, but not necessarily. And this one is that, the work that you do is not fulfilling. I think this is one of those things that leads to burnout, especially for those of us who are high performers. Like, we give it our best at work, regardless of if we don't really particularly enjoy our work or what we do. We don't hate it, but you don't love it either. You know what I mean? But when it's not fulfilling and you just kind of feel obligated, I guess, or being a responsible adult, and well, this is the job that I got, and it may pay well, you know what I mean, and it's stable, and so you're just sticking with it just because it's paying the bills, it's putting food on the table, it's taking care of your family and what have you. But you just you're just not fulfilled with what you do. You may feel like you want to do something more meaningful for you, that aligns more with with your morals, values, and goals, etc. You know what I mean? So that might be a sign that it's time to make some changes in your life. And then the last thing I got on here is you kind of always feel like you were just meant to do more. Like you feel like, dang, like, is this it? Like maybe growing up or whatever, you might have had all these dreams, as we tend to do, as kids, going into adulthood, or you might have always just kind of envisioned, more for yourself, and you could be super successful. Like, you know what I mean? You could have a nice house, nice car, families taken care of. You might be single, you know what I mean? Doing it out here in these streets, you know what I mean? You know, things on paper may be great, but it's still something inside you that says, like, dang, I just feel like I should be doing more. Like I'm meant for more. There's something else that I should be doing that's more meaningful. So yeah, those are just some of the things I wanted to talk about, on, you know, signs, signals, you know what I mean, that you may have experienced, that you might currently be experiencing, and you may not be thinking much of it, or you just think, that's just, how things are. But what I also wanted to talk about was the signs that I experience, and they're pretty much in line, with everything that I've shared, so far. I mean, I have experienced, and I'm currently experiencing, a lot of the signs, that I just laid out on the list here. The biggest thing is the burnout. That's one of the things that actually sparked me to start this channel, is because this I've experienced burnout before, and I'll talk about that particular experience. I'll save that for another video, but I've experienced it before, and I did a temporary change, which was basically take some time off from work. I took a sabbatical, and it helped kind of recharge my battery, but I'm finding myself right back back in this situation again, with experiencing and dealing with burnout. And again, like I said, well, I'll save my first experience with burnout for another video. But I just wanted to touch on these signs because, we have to kind of stop sacrificing. I think sacrificing our overall mental health and well-being, for stability, or what we feel like we're obligated, to do. And I'm not saying that we need to go out here and just be reckless and irresponsible and crazy, but it may be time to consider, like, putting together, start thinking about it, start planning. Maybe instead of saying, okay, maybe one day, actually think about it, and maybe start writing it down. Like, what would I actually need to do to start going after, the life that I dream of, or the lifestyle that I want to live. For me, I've experienced all of these signs. But especially us as millennials, like we've been, like, taught, growing up, that hard work, that's the only way to be successful. Like, you have to, work hard, and you know what I mean, and climb the corporate ladder, and go to school and get a good job, get a house, all of these things. And so it kind of, like, because this is what we were taught growing up, and you maybe start to feel like, what, I don't think that this is it, for me. You're not alone. I think a lot of us are experiencing or feeling this way, especially nowadays. So all of these things, once I kind of put everything together, and I kind of sat and realized, wow, like, I'm always freaking tired. Like, I'm always, like, exhausted mentally, and I keep trucking through, I keep pushing through, because, maybe it'll pass, right? I'm always questioning my life choices. Even if I'm not burned out, I'm always questioning my life choices, right? But yeah, like I said, I've experienced all of these things, and this time around, I'm going to do things a little bit different. Like I mentioned before, the first time around, I kind of just took some time off of work just to kind of recharge my battery. But I kind of jumped right back into the same pattern as far as with work, career, and what it means to, be successful. So this time, um, I'm documenting the journey on YouTube because I want to share this experience with others out there, just in case you may be dealing with the same, feelings, or you're maybe dealing with the same transitions in life. But this time, I'm actually going to really hone in and focus on the type of career, crafting the career that I, want, that I believe will be the most beneficial. And I'll save those for, that process for other videos. And yeah, so I'm starting with that. I'm starting with the career first, right? The stability first. I'm building in rest with, in the meantime. I'll talk about that later as well. But these are just some of the things that I I'm doing, to tackle this feeling like, you know, that, I need to, make some changes in my lifestyle and what I'm doing, and kind of refocus and put myself, first, my feelings, and not the feeling that, but society says if I do this and do this, that means I'm successful. And kind of, start challenging the status quo, and start challenging what we've always been, taught to follow, because for some of us it ain't working, for some of us it ain't working. So that's pretty much basically what I wanted to share in this video. If any of these, signs hit home for you, let me know if they did. Whether it was dealing with burnout, just constantly, daydreaming of a different life, or just questioning your life choices. You don't get excited about things anymore. Your work is not fulfilling, or you just always feel or felt, or you always feel or felt that you were meant for more in life. If any of these signs hit home with you, drop it in the comments. Let me know, so we can, continue on and try to figure, out what we really and truly want in life. All right. Well, that's all I have for this video. If you stuck around this long, thank you so much. I really appreciate you checking out my video today. And I hope to see you in the next video. All right. Thanks for watching.